Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the West Ham Irons channel. Hope everyone's doing good. Thank you for the responses on the show I done a couple of days ago, or was it yesterday? I can't remember, but thanks for that. Apologies for the microphone. Don't quite know what happened there. I'm just checking now. Yeah, everything looks to be good. So hopefully you can share me. I don't know what happened last time. The microphone didn't quite pick up the microphone I normally use. Picked up the MacBook microphone. I'm still audible, but obviously a bit different to how I normally do it. So yeah, thank you for the great comments regarding my father who passed away a few weeks ago. Thank you for that, much appreciated. It's just a lovely little community we built with the channel over the years, isn't it? Really, so I really appreciate that. Really, so hopefully I'll come back like I have and then go back to the regular shows, isn't it, really? So today it's another West Ham talking point show. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, really. It kind of clarifies everything what I'm trying to say, which I often try to say in small snippets throughout last couple of years. So many disappointments we've seen in West Ham performances and trying to hire a manager and trying to fire a manager and tactics and frustration at Sullivan, at Steidten, at Lopetegui. So this one video is literally about what I'm really trying to say, and then I can hit the nail on the head, and then in the future you'll kind of be very familiar with what I'm talking about and where I'm coming from, really. So West Ham talking point show, how not to run a football club, really. And the three characters involved in today's show is obviously the owner, Sullivan, the sporting or technical director, call him what, Tim Steidten, and our beloved, lovable rogue manager, Lopetegui, really. So there's a couple of slideshows I'm going to share with you, really. The first one's going to be what's happening at the moment, how the football club is run, and then the second slide will be showing you how I would and how any normal person would run a successful, hopefully a successful West Ham United or any other football club, really. So let's go into the shared scene area. Right, let's have a look at that. Let me just switch it over to that. Let's close that. Here we go. Hang on. Right, let's start off with this. Just going to put myself into corner there. Not missing much, it's just Lopetegui there. So don't worry about that. I might just go here for now, and then I'll move over as and when needed, really. So let's start off with the boss, the owner, the majority shareholder, Sullivan, really. So this is what's happening at the moment, right? So Sullivan has the final say on all matters, really. That can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing, really. A bad thing in a way where you are employing experts in the football field. So I'm assuming like 90% of the time the football owners are not football experts by all means. They love football, they perhaps had an ambition to own a football club, that's fine, and they've got the money, the financial clout, that's fine, but they're not experts at scouting, buying players, anything on the football side, on the playing pitch, they're not experts at, right? But if a manager recommends something to do with football, if a scout recommends doing something on that side of things, or a youth manager recommends something on that, then when you make your decision, you should largely take those views into account. So that can be positive or a negative thing, really. So long as that final say in the matter is taken after truly taking into account and respecting everyone's views, then it's not bad. What I'm hearing is that Sullivan is a bit of a control freak, and sometimes people working below don't feel that their work is kind of appreciated, or there's what's the point of being there if if everything they say normally doesn't get through and he does whatever he wants, a lot of the work is wasted, so to speak, really. So it has a final say in all matters. Second line, which obviously we all know and is very, very alarming, is that he buys some of the football players. That is a big no. You should not be buying any of the players. And I will go into the second slide and we'll go through what he should be doing on that side of things. But no way should any owner be buying some of the players, especially when they're not recommended by the manager or your scouting stroke technical stroke director or anyone else who works on the footballing side of things, really. So you should not be buying any of the players, otherwise you're going to end up with what we've had with Moyes, managers suffering in the past. Is players are bought against the manager's wishes and they're not played. It's a waste of time for the player, it's a waste of time for the manager, and it's a frustrating time for the fans. Many examples out there. Ben Rama, top of my head, I think was a Sullivan signing, whereas David Moyes wanted Eze. But there's many out there. Vlasic is perhaps another one, and that other Czech CDM, do you remember? He hardly played, hardly spoke to him, really. The third thing, buys players recommended by his favourite agents. So it's a lazy way of looking at players because you don't want to invest in your scouting system. You don't have a proactive attitude to go out there and look for players that perhaps people don't know about. Perhaps there's bargains out there. It's just lazy. Pick up the phone, ring your favourite mate. And one of them is actually responsible for Lopetegui getting the West Ham job, as an example, right? So lazy way of not scouting the market in advance of requirements, getting ready, being proactive, having that list always ready in every position, managers even, in case you need to dip into it. But we are reactive. So suddenly when we need a new manager, we need a new player, it's usually desperate times. Transfer window clock is ticking down. We're ringing the agents. Absolute crazy. Ringing the salespeople to ask if a certain car or sofa is good. Of course they're going to say it's good. They've got their personal agenda in it. They don't care about the club. So that's a big no-no. Big no-no. Secondly, I mean, there's many line items I could have added on the slide, but it would have got a bit too much confusing and prolonged show. So I think I'm trying to capture the main bits that you guys know about anyway. Bullies the board with a personal agenda. It's very healthy to have a board. A board of directors are the most technically knowledgeable people around relating to that business, what it does. So these are guys who are accountants, lawyers, tax advisors, sales staff, people who are experts, and usually a board is balanced. There's usually 10 plus members. It's made out of people from different ages, backgrounds, sex. Nice balanced board that when you come to making strategically very important decisions for a company stroke football club, you have a nice balanced knowledgeable view, and then you usually go to the votings. But what I'm hearing is that Sullivan again has a final say. He bullies most of the board because they're either his family members, like the kids, or even his wife, or they're perhaps to do with Gold's family, who literally don't really want anything to do with football, as I understand it. So he'll go around and perhaps give them a phone call the day before a board meeting and say, this is what I want to do. This is what I think we should do. So just get on board. So when you attend on the board meeting, it's just a formality. Everyone knows that whatever decision is made, it's going to be heavily voted or heavily in favour of Sullivan's brigade, which is not healthy for any business. It's a dictatorship, and that's what it is, really. Let's move on to devil number 2. It's Tim Steidten, the sporting director of football, which is a model, by the way, I don't agree with. Perhaps that's because of the traditional background I come from, really. Buys players not recommended by the manager. Right, that's a big no-no. I don't know what the remit Sullivan has given him, but it definitely should not be that. If the manager should be respected, he's got the most important job, arguably, at the club, is results on the pitch, which kind of yeah, it means everything to a club. It's football. The sponsorship, the deals, that's important. But for me, that comes in the background. If you're doing well on the pitch, everyone's happy on the pitch, good results, happy players. That's a great foundation to go and build whatever else you want in and around the club. No point having, a bit like Spurs, maybe it's a bad example, world-class stadium, not winning anything, in the bottom 10 at the moment. Doesn't quite go like that. Should be the other way around. Good team, good results, hopefully winning a few things, or certainly being successful according to your targets, and then we'll have a look at everything else. So buying players not recommended by the manager, you're going to get situations like Guilherme, Brazil, 20-25 million, hardly played, hardly touched him, right? Fulkrug, Tim Steidten, goes on to the second sentence, buying players with a history of past relationships. Apparently, he knows Fulkrug. He tried to buy him in the past and felt, okay, let's do it now. Let's do it now. I didn't do it before. Not looking that he's 32 soon, that he's not perhaps going to be the right person. He's got a lot of injuries. He's never played outside the Bundesliga before. But for his own personal agenda to fulfill, which is the last line, he went and bought a couple of players like that. As far as we can see, could be a bit more out there, right? So again, it's a waste of money from the club. It's a very selfish way of thinking. You're bigger than your position warrants. It's obviously has created issues with David Moyes. If you look at line 3, entering the dressing room, entering the training ground, entering pitch side, entering the tunnel uninvited, not agreed with Sullivan or especially the manager like Moyes or Lopetegui, it's a big no-no. You've got your certain criteria, which we'll go into second slide, which will explain what he should be doing. But what he should not be doing is buying players willy-nilly, whoever he wants, personal agenda to fulfill, entering dressing rooms when he's not, shouldn't be there. He's not kind of been asked to go there. And in a tunnel, I think it's a Spurs game, I can't remember. One of the games is in the tunnel and the players are like, they're motivating themselves. They're getting ready to go on the pitch, right? And he's, what the hell's going on there? And I think someone's had a word with him, and I don't think he's done that in a while. And especially when we used to do well, we used to go on the coach, he'd start clapping the players on the training ground. That is not what a sporting director, a remit or job profile warrants someone to do like that, right? So those are so that's the two devils, what they're doing. There we go, right? Let me just move myself to the top side now. Let's just go here for a while. Right. Lopetegui. Right. What's going wrong with the third devil, Lopetegui? Man management skills. Very, very poor, non-existent. Trying to do too much, right? Not recognising what the club's about, not bonding with the fans, not actually understanding the requirements of the job, which are kind of specialist and prevalent to each club. You manage Liverpool from day one. What's required of you, what should be doing, is going to be slightly different to any other club, right? So West Ham, man management skills, player management skills, absolutely terrible. Very, very non-character based. No charisma. Looks miserable whether we win or lose. Doesn't seem like someone you want to play for, or go through a brick wall for, or do anything for, or really play for, or be motivated to play for. And especially with Kudos and 2-3 other players we've seen, Todibo, it's terrible. The player relationships are terrible. There's been even news of an argument with Bowen, who wouldn't really argue with anyone. He's such a professional. So nearly every major dressing room, player in the dressing room, he's had a fight with, right? Communication skills. Every press conference, again, listen, I can't speak 2 words of Spanish, so respect to Lopetegui, right? But it's not good enough. The command of English is not good enough. The press conferences are embarrassing. Every different question asked, it comes up with a similar copy and paste answer. I feel sorry for him. It's that bad. He doesn't actually know what he's answering what he wants to answer. He's not answering the question. I don't know how he got the job with Sullivan. Sullivan saying he came across the best. I ain't got a clue. I think he was one of just 2 people that was interviewed for the job. And you've seen Amorim's interviews. Oh my God, the man is full of charisma, charm, positivity, understands the club, understands and accepts the pressure. sort of kind of really happy with it, very clear in his English. What more do you want? This guy's a complete gibberish opposite. Communication skills, whether they're man management skills, whether they're vocal skills, absolutely non-existent. Tactical knowledge, tactics, onto the third one. Got that one way of playing, which is kind of gung-ho, bit like Pellegrini, complete opposites to David Moyes, who is very careful, perhaps too reserved. This guy is absolutely, that really understanding the team, the new players that have come in, the number that have come in, just kind of doesn't care about defending. And often we have a non-existent slow centre midfield, which I think is the biggest issue in the team, by the way, and not the defence. I think it's a centre midfield which doesn't protect the back four, which get exposed. So when we concede goals, we obviously with our eyes, we see the managers, we see the goalkeeper scrambling, we see the defenders all over the place. But what we don't see is just before the build-up to letting in the goal is how the centre mid is often too slow, can't put the tackles in, can't dominate matches, can't dictate tactics, can't take the game scruff of his neck, nothing. So tactical knowledge, tactics, understanding what's needed and when, it's non-existent with Lopetegui. Fourth is out of his depth. It's, again, feeling sorry for him. It's very, very apparent that the size of West Ham United Football Club, the demands of the fans, the pressure of managing a big club in London, he's sadly out of his depth. With respect again to Wolves, managing Wolves or managing Brentford or Brighton or one of those clubs, Southampton, it's very different to managing West Ham. West Ham, whether you like it or not, I understand recent history. We've won one trophy, but not many decades before that. But it's a big club, 60,000 plus fans every game, many more abroad, huge history, huge pressure, and being in London, being in the limelight, it's huge pressure, and he's just not made up for it, unfortunately. He looks very much out of his depth, and I think he's asking to be sacked, if I'm being honest. But obviously, due to the package he'll get, he will obviously not throw in the towel until he's pushed out, really. The last one, who is assistant manager? Who are his backroom team of any real note? We don't know. Number twos are very important. We all remember him in history, whether good or bad. Even Harry Redknapp came in as Billy Bond's number two. John Lyle used to have Mick McGivern, I think, Ronnie Boyce. Even kind of with kind of Bilic, there's Julian Dix. Then we had people like Nolan. We had Nevin. We had Stuart Pearce, didn't we? We had Steve Clark under Zola, didn't we? We knew who they were. I don't even know who they are. They don't look like they got any real personality or kind of any say in what's going on the training ground. And I think it's very, very important that you have a very strong number two. You have a very good backroom team that perhaps the fans can see as well that, hey, let's see what's going on. It's absolutely non-existent, really. So this is the first slide. So this is everything that the three devils are doing wrong. Right now, I'm going to go into what really should be happening. A lot more lines, I'm afraid. A lot more lines here. But this is what West Ham United should be run as a football club. This is what the three devils, the owner, sporting director, the coach should be doing individually, according to me. And I'm sure most of you will agree. Sullivan, what should he be doing as an owner of West Ham United Football Club, which is a very prestigious, responsible position, right? You're not only owner of a Premiership football club, you have got your hands on something that the local community is proud of, and obviously we know what a fuck up job he's done of Upton Park on that side of things. So anyway, helps the board decide the football philosophy of the club. I've tried to put it in order as well. I think, what would I do on day one that I own West Ham United? What am I thinking of? First of all, I'm thinking of speaking with the board, nominating the board, getting the right people around me, especially on the football side, and together have a meeting and decide, what is this football club about? What is the philosophy? What is the history? understanding and bonding with the fans, which is the second one. And with all that, and that means communicating with the fans. That means really communicating with the fans with everything: design of the badge, the kits, even moving away from Upton Park, which they never did. They never spoke to anyone, right? Which is a big no-no, right? So understanding what is a club about, what is a community about, go for a walk in the high street, talk to fans, what you're happy about, what you're not happy about. Every club is different. Understand the club that you've got. It's unlike any other business you've ever owned. I'm sure you've got money. You're an amazing business guy. You have to be to have that kind of wealth. But owning and running a successful football club is very unique. And even Alan Sugar said, I couldn't manage it. Forget that, right? So understand the club, understand the history, understand the philosophy, bond with the fans, communicate with the fans, understand the fans. Third point, this is where your skills should be great, which again, there isn't. Bring sponsorship, bring investment to the football club, especially on the corporate side. We moved to this bowl right next to Canary Wharf, right next to the big banks like HSBC, Citibank, JP Morgan, Bank of America. I can guarantee you one thing: they don't put $1 into the club. They don't even bother watching us. If they want to take their clients out on a football, they'll probably go to Spurs or they'll probably go to Arsenal, right? And that's a failure on Karen Brady's shoulders, who's responsible for bringing investors, corporate sponsorship, whether that's the ground, whether that's the shirts. That's what they should be doing. Instead, what they're doing none of that, but they're hiking up the seat prices, the ticket prices, which do not bring the majority of the income. You can put up a ticket by £20, but overall, that will not make any difference overall or any real mark on the kind of revenue of the club, really. Investing in the training facilities, right? That's a responsibility to obviously make sure that the players thrive and train in the best facilities possible. Helps you to recruit the greatest talents, especially when a player's had two offers. Where's he going to go? Is he going to join West Ham after looking at the Dagenham training ground facilities, or is he going to join Spurs, right? You know what the answer is, right? Again, he hasn't done that. Investing in the youth system, again, he hasn't done that. Teams are doing well by hook or crook, according to the coaches we've got, like Robson and Keane and many, like Tony Carr before that, but they're not being given a chance. We all know, as footballing amateurs, that people like George Murphy and the other lad that Villa wanted, they're better than our central midfield we got at the moment, but they weren't given a chance, right? Investing in the ground, which comes down to we don't even own our own ground anymore. I hate going to that ground. I've done the tour. There's nothing apart from the tunnel where the players come out of. The other three sides, there's nothing there to show you on tour. They won't even go there. There's no trophy rooms. There's no history rooms. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's empty dressing rooms. There's that tunnel. It's a cold place. It's an un-West Ham place. I don't get attached to it, right? So they haven't invested in the ground. They haven't invested in the youth system. The owner has not invested in the training facilities. He's brought minimal sponsorship and investment to the club. Doesn't understand the bond with the fans, and doesn't understand the football philosophy of the club, right? And then the last thing, what he should be doing, the only thing he should be doing, is only approving the finance side of transactions on football transactions. So, which I'll come to in a minute, right? So the manager and anyone around him working with him, like the technical sporting director, they should only be bringing the transactional value and the name of the player to the desk of the board and the owner. And the only thing the board should be allowed to do is say yes or no based on the monetary value of the player that you wish to purchase on the football side. By no means should a board member or an owner say that player ain't good enough. I think that player's better than him. I don't think that is needed. That should not be done. The only thing that should be looked at is perhaps the age of the player, the probable resale value of the player, the wages that could be having to spend on him, the cost of the deal, and that's it. And based on that, you say yes or no, right? And if you say no, then that goes back to the technical director to feed back to the manager and say, we need to buy a cheaper player. That should be the only yes or no. Not that my agent's got someone better than that. Shall I give him a phone? Or lie. Or lie to the technical director and the manager to say, okay, we'll try to sign him, when you know deep down the owner's not going to try to sign him. Weeks and weeks will go past. The manager will not know what's going on. Then with a few weeks to go, with the window to close, from the board, the message will come down to the manager to say, we tried, we can't strike a deal, when they haven't really tried because they've got another player they want to sign. See, it's happened many, many times where even David Moyes, another manager, has given a name to Sullivan well in advance of the window. But for hook or crook, for want of trying, the board or Sullivan have deliberately not got that deal over the line because they had their own agenda, their own players they wanted to bring in. And then with 2 days to go, the manager just gives up and Sullivan goes and buys a player that was waiting in the corner and an agent that was waiting for that deal all along. That's not the way to do it, right? That brings me on to the second devil, Tim Steidten. What he should be doing. Right. In my view, sporting director, technical director, call you what, should act as an assistant and aid to the manager. Right? By no means should he feel he's above the manager or the manager reports into him. No. The technical sporting director and the manager, they both have a more or less an equal position where they're reporting to the owner. If anything, the manager, in my view, should be more senior than the sporting technical director, because the technical director, Tim Steidten, should act as an assistant and aid to the manager, which makes the manager more senior than him, with they both of them reporting in to the board and kind of Sullivan, really. So none of those things where you're buying players without telling him, without agreeing with him. No, you solely act as an assistant and aid to the manager. Second line, you carry out the manager recruitment instructions, full stop, right? You can recommend your own players, but that's about it. You don't force them down the manager's point, and you certainly don't go to the board and start to do those deals behind the manager's back. I'm not saying that's been done, but something like that, right? You strictly carry out the manager's wishes. You're there to help him. That's it. Once the manager approves, you seek board approval for buys. The manager refrains from any contact with the board unless the daily, monthly, bi-weekly catch-ups, whatever, right? So your football side, the manager and the director work together, right? And then once there's a decision to be made to seek financial transactional approval, which I mentioned above, then Tim Steidten will go to Sullivan and say, listen, me and the manager have worked together. This is who we want to sign. This is what it's going to cost. And then gain approval. Once approval is gained, then I'm going to skip to the bottom line. Then Tim Steidten will help to finalise and get those deals over the line on the monetary side, on the contract side of things, right? So the manager will not get involved in wages, salary, the price of players, and nor will the manager directly go to the owner for any approval or the board. That middleman is Tim Steidten, right? Bit like a PA, bit like a secretary, right? And another important job, build and manage the scouting network, which will aid helping identify players for the manager. So the manager will sometimes instantly know who he wants. That's fine. But alongside that, it'll be nice for Tim to say, Lopetegui, yeah, we understand that. We need a player and you've identified these two you like. But in the background, we'd like to present to you our scouting network, our scouting report on something that you'd like that kind of correlates to the way you want to play. So all the buying. So you remember the philosophy. The philosophy Sullivan is dictating is the playing style as well. And that dictates, and the board dictates on how you get the manager in. That's how Brighton Brentford, that's how their model works. They know how they want to play, what kind of age players they want to kind of look at, and that's how the manager, that's how it works, right? They don't go and buy a Rodriguez. You won't see a slow Rodriguez or a Souček or anyone like that static signing for Brentford or Brighton. It doesn't serve their model. They hire young, exciting managers who play the similar attacking way. They sign young, exciting, box-to-box, fine, brilliant strikers, pacey defensive players. So the managers kind of know how to use them, right? And that's how everything should be done on that side, right? Now on to Lopetegui. A manager coming in should fully understand what's expected of them and understands the club playing style. That's why they're being put in. Right? Tactically astute. Should have a way of playing that the club already regards as key for them, key for the manager. And he's got more than one tactics to play with, whether you're home, you're away, you're winning or losing. You kind of have different ways of playing. Good player management skills, like I said, whether you're in the team, whether you're at the team, whether you're a youth player, whether you're a senior player, you should know how to communicate regularly with them, including injured players. So Antonio's going to be out for a year. It's very, very important that the manager keeps an eye on him and is regularly in touch with him for any issue, especially on the mental side, right? We know David Moyes never did that. If you weren't part of his first 13, he used to isolate you. He would not speak to you. He didn't give a shit what was going on. That's not the way to do it, right? You speak to each person with respect, something John Lyle was great with, making sure even a family are happy, Develops youth systems, right? Very, very important. Goes in with the investing in the youth system philosophy that, the owner will invest in the youth. He will tell the manager that's one of your targets before he comes in. And then he will be judged on that regularly to say, put pressure on him, say, listen, how's it going? Have you had a look at certain players? Are you happy with them? What's going on? There's so many managers who don't spend enough time to look at youth games. Can't even be bothered to watch them. John Lyle always used to watch youth games. It makes the players look special. It makes the youth players feel good. It motivates them, right? You've got to give them a route into the first team. Good relationship with the fans, right? You've got to understand the fans. You can't do things like Sam Allardyce like doing that. I was at that game. You cannot do that. You should understand the club, how to get on side with them and listen to them. A good eye for buying players, which is very, very key. Someone who was very good at it was someone like Klopp. He knew the way he wanted to play, which was fast, pressing football, counter-attacking football. He bought players to fit that model, pace throughout the team, and didn't really have the greatest money to spend. A lot of his signings about 40 million or below, but they always worked because, they understood what was required of them, and the manager understood, and the board didn't intervene or dilly-dally in any of those, really. So that's kind of that. So I hope you kind of got a flavour for that. I'm just going to go back to the other screen now. Let me just close this one off. Won't be a minute. There we go. Yeah, so hopefully that was interesting. Half an hour I've been going on for, so hopefully it wasn't too long for you. But that's kind of first part, how the club is being run at the moment, how it shouldn't be run, and how it should be running. So I hope that's clear. I don't think it's that complicated, but until Sullivan leaves, I'm afraid we're not going to adopt the second slide and things I put out there. It's not going to happen, and we just hope and pray that the new owners will pick up on that, really. So that's a sad thing. It's not going to change. Whether Lopetegui goes or not, whether a new manager comes in or not, I'm afraid because those points are made are not being followed, will not be followed under the Sullivan regime. We will always be up and down and largely be down and struggle more often than not, I'm afraid, really. Put your comments at the end of the video. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back with another video soon.